right, every peoples. Welcome back to the D&D 3.5 book club, the show about all things D&D 3.5 and adjacent. Um, it's been a little while, but my name is Cliff. I will be your co-host today, and along is Lonnie. So, Lonnie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. So we're recording today on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh
So
yeah.
so I think it would be I would be remiss if I didn't ask you how your Thanksgiving went.
Oh, oh man, I made a rookie mistake, my dude. I kind of I didn't get really good sleep, and then I was hanging at my mom's house, and I had plans to go hang out with my buddy's family, for their Thanksgiving, and my mom finished her food like midday, so I ate a little bit of turkey, and right before I was about to head out to go hang out with my buddies, I passed out. I hit the food coma too early, and then I'm like, so made rookie mistakes.
Yeah, same thing. I went over to my uncle's place on Thanksgiving. Like my family, we're all spread out all across the U.S., so we kind of did some video calls and whatnot.
Oh,
But
nice.
I went over there and I was like, I'm gonna pace myself. I'm not just gonna eat a ton and then fall asleep. And I just immediately ate a ton and fell asleep.
The exact thing you said you weren't going to do.
Yeah, 100%. But I am super psyched today, number two, to be shooting the second episode of the D&D 3.5 book club, but also to get your thoughts on a lot of stuff that we've talked about in the past, specifically all this Unearthed Arcana stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a great book, so I'm really excited to dive into this and really hit some of the cool meteor points that I think that this book has to offer.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I don't know, I'm just psyched to kind of get your take on a lot of this because you are a lot more knowledgeable about stuff like level adjustment and a lot of alternate features that I'm not really uh honestly up until we started doing that Oriental Adventures Greyhawk game together.
Uh-huh.
I had never actually used level adjustment. I just threw it away.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, like I remember already off on a tangent. Here we go. Um like I remember the first time I encountered level adjustment, and I didn't understand how it worked either. It was I'd just gotten those books. I was living in Missouri at the time. And I was looking at things like half dragons and half werewolves and things like that. And I was like, I was like, oh, like what +4 level adjustment? I don't know what that means. It sounds complicated. I'm not gonna mess with it. And you know, it was okay, kind of, until I got to be in college. And as you'll recall, if anybody's watched our last episode, they'll recall you talking about my friend who's a girl who had all the books showing up to our first game of D&D. She was like, what kind of character you guys running, what kind of level adjustment you guys running, and she built something that kind of fit into the right level scheme. And she built an ogre mage, and this thing just ran amok. Like I couldn't do anything with it. It beat every monster I threw at it. And like I was like, I don't know how to deal with this monster that's got regeneration and all of these features, like. So when you just kind of blase ignore level adjustment, and like it kind of like it can really upset your balance of your game. So knowing what level adjustment is and how to handle level adjustment is awesome. And I think personally that it's something that fifth edition specifically is missing, that it really, really needs to have brought back.
Absolutely. Like I'm 100% on board. And I also have a little bit of a similar story. So my buddy Nason, who listeners you will notice he was on the Origins episodes. My buddy Nason, we started playing together about 20 years ago. Um, and everybody else in that game rolled their characters when all we had was the third edition, not the 3.5,
Oof.
PHB, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. Is when we started playing. I don't even think 3.5 was out yet. And we're playing for a while. We're going along, and somewhere in the campaign, Nason's character dies, and he's like, "I want to roll up a new character." And by that time, we had all these new books. And what I should have done is I should have just either let everybody roll up a new character or put him in the same constraints that, you know. But no, I was
Right.
like, hey, we got all these new books. That's fine. Like, use them. So he goes into Races of Stone and he picks like a stone child, and then like he takes the class stone child, which gets like just all this different strength and all this crazy stuff, and then he's
Yep.
like, yeah, okay, then I'm gonna be a fighter, then I'm gonna be then I'm going to be a sorcerer and I'm going to use that in order to go into Dragon Disciple. So he ends up just unstoppable, just completely unstoppable. Everybody else in the party is like, I would like to roll with my plus 6 for a 1d4 plus 2. And he's just like, I cleave everything, 5,000 damage, blah. It's just insane, dude.
Yeah, no, I and that's a big like thing about when you start getting to the meteor side of like of 3.5 specifically. Was there like especially well like 3.0 specifically really, it had so many things that were just not really balanced quite right, like spell resistance just being like, at the time it was just like, I'm immune to all level 1, 2, 3, 4 spells, they can't hit me, your magic missile can't hit me, like, and uh whereas like, later spell resistance was like a roll that you had to make to try to hit somebody's level, like with a concentration check, like, it got brought in line where, and like before it was like, oh, I have unpassable damage reduction 50 bajillion, and now it's like, oh, I've got 5 unpassable damage reduction, and like it's still really hard to kill me. So just the dangers of reaching out into other books in 3.0 was real for sure.
Yeah, I do almost feel like with third and 3.5, it's almost a good idea to well, this is an idea that I had for, when I run my next third or 3.5 game. So you as the DM, your books are, the PHB, the 3 core books,
Right.
and then everybody gets to pick one book. And those are the books for the table. Like those are the books that you can use in that game.
Huh. That's interesting.
And so I thought that might be kind of cool. Might try to do that someday.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Um, we tried doing things like that. When I was in my college kit group, we did a campaign one time where everybody was allowed to bring one home brewed like prestige class to the, like, they had to find they had to go out online, find a random prestige class that was homebrewed, and like bring it to show and tell, you know what I mean? And like we found the most insane like prestige classes out there, like people just weren't even trying to hide that they were being the Myrmidon, right, was like this gladiator-esque style prestige class that focused on critical hits, and it with if you had the right weapon and the right and like critical, like the keen and stuff on your weapon, you could get a 2 to 20 critical hit range. The only way to miss was to critically fail.
Oh man. Just roll around with a scythe doing 4 times damage.
Oh yeah, for real, it was pretty brutal, it was pretty crazy.
Did you guys ever hear of Pun Pun? Because I think he came out in 3.5 or 3.0.
No.
Pun Pun is it's kind of uh an infamous build. It's a kobold, and I forgot if he was like a druid or a sorcerer or whatever. But apparently at some level, like level 3 or 4 or whatever, he can just like double his own power infinitely, just to the point where you just max out all your stats and just get crazy stuff. And so he was a really infamous build there for a while.
Yeah, I never heard of that. I'm really glad that none of my people ever heard about that either. That would have been really annoying to have to deal with all.
Oh yeah, 100%. But so today we're looking at the Unearthed Arcana, right?
Right, right. I have that ready to go.
Cool, cool.
And
And
then you
if you
had the Temple of the Shattered
yeah, so
Obelisk or
I had
something.
yeah, I had a few things that I wanted to say about this really well, I think it's a fantastic adventure. I think it's okay, so let's kind of back up a little bit. So last year I finally got to run. I'd wanted to run this for so long. I ran Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil, which
That's
is
what I
a
was thinking.
which is the third edition module. And it takes place, I think, about 20 years after the events of the Temple of Elemental Evil. I didn't tie it into that. Um, the actual story itself is not great. And as written, if I was trying to actually do the thing as it's written, it would be virtually unrunnable, I think. So I changed a lot of stuff. Um, I changed the main enemy. I changed a lot of the factions. I added a whole lot of new stuff, and the game was just really fantastic. Um, but I loved that book for so many reasons. Number one, because it's it's not really an adventure. It's just like a book of encounters, and the encounters are so good. I want to say there was like more than 300 separate encounters in that book, and they're all just like set up for you. So you can just go in there and be like, okay, I need a fourth level encounter. Bam, here's 50 of them.
Wow.
I need a 15th level encounter. Okay, here's like five of those. Uh, just really, really good stuff. The NPCs were were really good. And actually, Lonnie, you went through in that Oriental Adventures game. You
Yeah,
went
yeah.
through the original Moat House dungeon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So that's I didn't uh, paint it as the Moat House dungeon, but I just revamped it and used it because I think that's a really good intro dungeon. But this game also had it had a lot of insanity stuff going on with it as well. Like in the original module, there's this cult of Tharizdun, like the Elder Elemental Eye, and their whole thing is like they go insane, and the more insane they are, the more cool stuff they can do. So I wanted to kind of just put my 2 cents on running that and kind of compare and contrast the different insanity scores and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome because that's one of the main things that I really enjoyed um like about Unearthed Arcana was all the additional rules that it or optional variant rules, I guess you would call them, for ways to add to your campaign and make it more lifelike and immersive. And so one of the rules that that I've always been kind of like partial to, and I'm going to bring it up on screen here right now. Actually, all right, is that showing?
Yep, that is good to go.
All right, yeah. So is the sanity rules that they had built in here, um, and I really just enjoyed this. Like, it's not particularly like detrimental at first, like it doesn't come up all the time, but like right here, when a character encounters a gruesome, unnatural, or supernatural situation, maybe they got to make a check. Like, um, you get true resed and you see the blood stain that was your first body, you know, make a check because that's going to be traumatic. You know what I mean? Like, your body got destroyed, you're a blood stain on the wall, but you're alive and you're looking at yourself. Like, that might hurt your sense of realism. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. I do think it's really cool that little blurb on the bottom right hand, because I was kind of thinking, okay, so it's not like Cthulhu insanity loss, but apparently it kind of is. And I don't know if so. I would kind of hope that you have some experience with this because because I don't. But did you ever play the Cthulhu D20 game?
I have not actually played that game. I'd be down to play that game. It
Oh,
sounds fun.
I have no idea. I've heard really negative reviews about it.
Really?
Just because I mean I've played older editions of Call of Cthulhu and I really enjoyed them, but it's a totally skill-based thing. So
Okay.
it's all like D100. So, if you have 20 in a skill, then you would succeed on 1 out of 20, on a 1D100 roll. If you had 90, then you would, succeed on 1 through 90. Um, and I don't know, it seems like a really it I don't even know how you would translate it to a D20, but I would like to, I'd like to check it out.
I mean, there's lots of games out there that are based on the D100 skill check rule. Like there's a Fallout game I wanted to play for a long time that runs because the original Fallout series you leveled your skills from 1 to 100, and so it runs it the same way. You just roll your percentiles, and as long as you roll, you know underneath what your skill is, that's your success. You win, and otherwise you fail. And so I mean, I've those games are I've never played that system personally, but it seems fairly straightforward and like it would be kind of a fun thing to. I'm always down for learning new systems,
Oh yeah,
Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, whatever, what have you.
100%. I'm in that same boat. And I also really do love the original Fallout game, so that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. Um, but yeah, so like this, yeah, like they're basing it on Cthulhu and how the old ones would drive you crazy. There's certain monsters they're like, oh yeah, like monsters that are like aberrations are more likely, like illithids and beholders and things are more likely to make you lose sanity. uh you know Things that are humanoid and whatnot have almost no chance in making you lose sanity. But then there's like, oh, like, so when you suffer shock, or whatever, or like you spell cast something that does something crazy, like, um but all this stuff comes from a base of like, okay, well, your character gets wisdom score multiplied by 5, right? So wisdom score, unless you're a cleric, right, has always kind of been meh. It's been kind of med. Like it doesn't really like affect the game too drastically unless you're getting mind controlled into killing your whole team. Shout out to a certain player who knows what's up.
As you do.
Um but wisdom scores are kind of whatever, but with sanity, they serve a purpose. So you're not like, oh, I'm not going to just put my 9 in wisdom, like, and then go off half cocked, because then you only have 45, and when you're making your sanity rolls, it's real easy to roll over a 45 on a percentile dice. um but you know um I don't know how they handle it in your the Temple of Elemental Evil, but like there's a lot of negatives for being insane in this, and I don't really think there's any bonuses. Um to be perfectly honest. But you can get things like forbidden knowledge lore, which is its only little unique thing. Um Answers questions about aberrations and things like that. You can go, and then it covers getting used to it. Like the higher your level, like your level like applies some sort of extra bonus. You get to like restore insanity points when you level up. Essentially is what it is. So like if when you're level 1 and you see a beholder, you're gonna lose your shit, right? But when you're level 20 and you see a beholder, you're like, oh, let me get my sword out and stab this thing in the face.
Yeah, like I killed like
That's
20 of those yesterday.
Yeah, I killed like 20 of those yesterday. It's not a big deal. Um, so you get your insanity back, you become more resistant to it, things like that. But then you got your effects here, where character flees, you got which is standard fear stuff, right? But then you got current of incoherent speech, characters are gripped by intense phobia, which means that in the future they've got problems. They hallucinate, they turn on their allies and attack their friends. um you know uh this one right here, character has aberrant sexual desires. Like that's for those games where people are busting out the book of erotic fantasies and they're like, I'm gonna do some weird shit today.
Or the Book of Vile
Like,
Darkness.
yeah, other book of vile darkness, there you go. I mean,
There was a
um
so like number one, I love this. Like this is just fantastic. Like just super Lovecraftian, like super Darkest Dungeon vibes.
I love Darkest Dungeon, by the
Yeah,
way.
it's great. It's just I love that game. Love it so much. But yeah, that's I always appreciate the ability to just put insanity and like weird Cthulhu stuff into any game, and this is just perfect. Like you don't have to convert anything. It's 3.5. It's right there. It's ready to go.
Right, exactly. And then you get like, and they even cover therapy and all the like how to like get better and stuff, which again, very dark and darker. It's like I mean, this book came out years before Dark and Darker came out, or I mean Darkest Dungeon. um and like you got your restoring your sanity, healing stuff, like all that nonsense. And it's they cover going insane and getting a drug addiction or whatever. I mean, it's
Also the
a
artwork.
really,
The artwork is
yeah,
that's brilliant.
just choice, chef's kiss. We got like almost where's like this is almost all let's like almost 10 pages, 15 pages on just going insane. Like that's a fairly large chunk. That's more than is dedicated to like skills and how you use your skills. Like, um but there's just so like, and that's just one of the many 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 things that's in this book, um that like catches my flavor, that I really enjoy. Like, um got like, oh, variant classes right here. This hands down is my favorite. Like, I want to say, like, I would say the level adjustment rule, the level adjustment change is my favorite thing. But when I really think about it, this is where it's at. Like, this is the
Yeah.
important like thing right here, because they have a section here on paladin variants. They got freedom, slaughter, and tyranny. They are paladins of evil, they are paladins of chaos, and they are paladins of neutrality. Because a good deity is not going to be the only deity that reaches down and touches somebody and be like, you're going on a quest for me.
Man, I'm actually a little bit salty right now because I cannot believe that I didn't know about this book. It's like we never used this book. We never had it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
And
it was one of those obscure ones that was kind of off to the side, and the girl from college had it in her big bag of books. And it changed. Like like even here, you're looking at it, you got your different auras of evil, you divine grace, deadly touch instead of lay on hands, you've got smite good instead of smite evil, rebuke instead of turn. Like, it's got rules for all that stuff, and it's just one of the rangers that focus on fighting on the planar level instead of like random monsters in the wild. Let's see what else we got here. We got some savage bards that are like barbarian style bards.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, cloistered clerics. I don't even know what that's about,
Okay,
but
yeah, I know Pathfinder ended up making the cloistered cleric like a base class for a while. Basically like a cleric who doesn't get, or at least in Pathfinder, it's a cleric that doesn't get all the like weapon and armor proficiencies. Like you're basically
uh-huh.
just, walking around with like a quarterstaff and, robes,
Oh, okay, yeah, like a
but
monk.
yeah, but your spell casting is a lot better.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, so there's like so many, you got specific kinds of monk, you know, passive, friggin' overwhelming attack, being sneak kind of monk thing going on here. Like you've got so many variant options in here, and this is something that we talked about during our last thing was variant classes and changes like things that were in the player's handbook too and stuff. Oh, like this battle variant sorcerer. This is another really good one.
Oh man, actually, my buddy Steve used that in my Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil game.
Nice.
So I guess
Yeah.
so I guess he found this book somewhere and grabbed it.
Yeah, I mean, and like there's so it's so good. Like there's so much stuff in here. You got extra domains that weren't there. Um if I'm not mistaken, they have a section somewhere they have a section here, I should say. Uh like becoming a god, or maybe that was in the deities and demigods inner handbook or something.
Now
I think it might
I
be
did have those.
I think that might be in the planner handbook actually. Not. Oh,
I
but then
think it,
so something that's like really popular, right? It's really, really popular amongst fifth edition players is bloodlines, right? And so like for especially like for because they made it like a sorcerer only kind of thing, right? And so if you're a
yeah.
sorcerer, you can have a dragon or a celestial bloodline.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
in this version, you could just have a bloodline. You could just be like, I'm your average everyday rogue with a celestial bloodline. You know what I mean? Or a demonic bloodline. And what it essentially it limits you a little bit because you can only get 17 class levels based on how or like because there's like small, medium, and large, right? Small is you can go to level 19 and have one level of a bloodline. And medium is you go to 18, have two levels of a bloodline, and large, you go to 17, have three levels of a bloodline. And you have to take levels of bloodline at sometime before level six, right? Um, and the thing is that so like right here they say yeah, if you're only doing a small one it's got to be before 12th. If you're doing a major one you got to do third, sixth, and 12 at the last possible chances to get in on it to be otherwise you have to wait, otherwise you take 20% experience penalties and stuff like you're trying to multi-class. But they give you just all these crazy bonuses like damage reduction, bonuses to raw stats. Um, and they've got them for dragons, doppelgangers, like all these different bloodline traits in here. Have you got a lot minotaurs, lots of stuff in here, right? So it's a little way to be like, look, things happen. People people get mixed bloodlines or have weird people in their past or something going on, right? That like my great grandpa used to like to screw around with monsters.
As you
and
do.
so I'm part ogre or something like. But it's this nice little like thing. It doesn't take too much away from your character class. It gives you, generally speaking, kind of a lot. Uh, but it's never. It's like it's over 20 levels, right? It's not like you're like, oh, well, I spent 3 points on it, I get damage reduction 5 versus evil like right now. It's over 20 levels. Level 1, you're only getting a +2 sense motivation. At level 2, you're getting a free feat, you know. And it kind of just goes and gives you slightly better bonuses and more and more, and they go as it goes down. Um, but it's a way to like be like, I'm a monster class without actually being a monster class.
That is
Which
just super cool. I mean, I love this kind of stuff. And again, I'm pretty salty because we didn't have this book, because this book is filled with all of the stuff that I love the most about um, later 3.5 and then Pathfinder and now Starfinder. Um,
right,
like I consider the player's handbook 2 to be core. Like you need to have the player's handbook 2. Um, and the other stuff like the race books that have all the like variant druids,
like
variant
races
rogues.
of stone and
Yeah,
races of wind and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Like anything that has like a variant that you can pick. Like I think those are just they just revolutionize the game. And I feel like one of my favorite games, Starfinder, like that's just everything is super variant. So there's only like maybe 8 or 10 classes in Starfinder, but there are
Yeah.
so many variants that you can just go off in insane directions and never make the same character twice.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had a very limited experience with Starfinder. I have the books I want to play so bad. Um, but it's just never been one of those things that's been in the cards. Like try to put a group together, people aren't interested, they'd rather play regular D&D, or I join a game on Roll20 and the GM turns out to be the jerk, and I'm just like not even in, he's trying to railroad everybody, and like, this is not fun. But it's definitely a game that I've seen some of the depth to, and it was like to go on a tangent here, the DM I was talking about, I wanted to play a mechanic goblin, right? And I had this cool idea for this goblin character who would like pull spark plugs out of things and like stick them in his mouth like the guy from Coneheads, and be like, oh yeah, that's why that's broken. Or like he would like lick the ship and be like, oh, these wires are crossed, I need to go fix that. Like this would be kind of a goofy little goblin mechanic kind of character. But we already had a mechanic, and he's like, we really need a captain. I was like, I really don't want to play a captain. He's like, oh, you really need a captain, nobody wants to play the captain. And I was like, all right, I'll play the captain. And I got really into it. I made this character and I was so excited to play it. And I gave him all these skills to just be a really good like captain, and like get us deals on buying ship parts and all this stuff. And he's like, oh man, no, if it's not like, I'm not letting you get stuff for cheaper. You guys are only ever getting value equal to what your level like determination
That's
is.
really weird, man. Especially because in Starfinder, there's this whole they're called UPBs, and that's what they are. They're like,
Oh yeah, you could break things down into universal like product whatever shenanigans and just make whatever you want out of these things, right? That's what you're talking about?
yeah, and like that's the whole there's like a whole mechanic in there about, getting things for different discounts with diplomacy checks and,
Oh
like
yeah,
using your like illicit knowledge. And I think there's a theme. It might be the outlaw theme, but it's like or free captain or something like that. But
right.
like it actually gives you like you
That's what I
get
was trying to play,
yeah,
man.
you get illicit goods for cheaper.
And I was like, I want to be a brown coat. I want to be Captain Reynolds. You know what
Ah,
I
that'd be
mean?
so awesome.
Like that's what I was going for, was like this Firefly Captain Reynolds theme. And I was trying to get like build my character to be like, okay, like I can get us stuff for cheaper. And he's like, oh, I'm not gonna let you like talk the price down on things. And he's like, and you guys aren't gonna be able to like negotiate. He's like, you might be able to negotiate for more money on something, but then you're just not gonna like get something else. He's like, because I'm never gonna give you more money than what you should have for your level based on this chart that's in some book that
Yeah.
says character wealth by level. He's like, you're never going to get more than that. And I was like, well, that's dumb. Like, because that's just bad DMing. Like
Yeah,
I don't
I
care who
can't
you
really get
are.
behind that. That actually
um
that reminds me. Did I ever tell you the story about my first Pathfinder game?
no, but I would love to hear it.
So not to detract or take away from that story, but something very similar happened to me. I actually really didn't like Pathfinder for a long time. It took me a long time to play it because my first experience with it was so bad. I was living in China at the time, teaching there, and I found this group of players there, um, a couple Australians, a couple guys from the UK, and a couple Americans. The DM, he was the other American guy, and he was running the Way of the Wicked. And he was like, "Hey, man, that's cool. You play tabletop role playing games. Like, do you wanna play this game of the Wicked, Way of the Wicked with us?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great. Like, I don't know anything about Pathfinder, but I'd be glad to learn." And so he's like, "Well, you got to make a really OP character because like the rest of the party, they're all like they're super power gamers. They're making these like insane, crazy, and like
Yeah.
I'm throwing crazy stuff at them. So if you don't make a really powerful character, you're not going to be able to keep up." I was like, "Okay, okay." So I was kind of asking him about
What makes a
different,
powerful character?
yeah, what makes power because I didn't know anything about Pathfinder, but also like what did they need? So uh it kind of came down to they didn't really have anybody with like really good front line um defense. And so I was like, okay, I'll make like a oh man, like we're doing evil stuff. It would be really cool to make a blackguard. So
Oh yeah.
so I came up with this whole idea, like I built the character. He was going to be a fallen paladin, and so like in his paladin life, he was this like he was super upright. He was all into justice. He was super straight edge. He always like he had great self discipline. He would just always do the best he could to help people. But over the course of life, he experienced all kinds of trauma and he fell to being a blackguard, and he just became like he was like he would just be super gluttonous. Like he would drink all the time. He would just eat all the food that he possibly could. He was, and he was like he became cruel and evil. Um, and I built him as a character, and the DM was like, "Oh no, you can't do that."
Oh no.
Like what? It's like what you like. This is like what you told me to do. And so he was like, "No, you can't do that. Well, it wouldn't work in this way." Okay, whatever. So that happened two more times.
Oh
I
no.
built a grand total of three characters, and this is after the DM, like the first time we met, going like, "Yeah, you can make anything you want." So he shoots down three characters, and then the fourth time he goes, "Well, hey man, listen, I'll just make you a character." And I was like, "Well, I don't really want you to do that, but let's see where this goes." And then he made me a character that it was very clear he wanted to make and play in the game,
Right.
but he couldn't because he was the DM.
Yeah.
And he would
Yeah.
just tell me like every round, he would just be like, "Yeah, it would be most beneficial for you to do this." And so I basically didn't even play the character. I just sat there
You were
while,
just his proxy for his DM character.
yeah. So I played one game with those guys, and I was like, I don't want to play this anymore.
No, I mean, it's so funny because that's really like I said, the guy was like, "Oh, you got to be a captain, right?" And so I made my character with the intention of like getting us good discounts and deals and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, that's never gonna work." And I was like, "Well, can I remake my character?" Right? And I was like, "Okay, I'll remake my character." And then I was like, I made my captain kind of stealthy and stuff. And then we had this like weird like space zombie situation where like this base was getting attacked by space zombies, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna use my stealth because I made him super stealthy. And I was like, I'm gonna sneak out there and I'm gonna like sneak over to this other area and try to get the generators back on or something like that, right? And he's like, you open the door and you're spotted because they have line of sight to you. And I was like, they don't have to make a spot check? Is that not how stealth works in Starfinder? He's like, no, that's not how stealth works in Starfinder. If you're not actively behind at least low cover, you're not hiding in Starfinder. You have to have actual cover. I was like, what about if I'm just sneaking up behind somebody who's looking the opposite direction? Do all creatures have 360-degree blind sight? Because blind sight is a skill that you have to have. Like creatures have it. Tremor sense is a skill that creatures have. They have to have it. Like that's the point of sneaking, is that you're trying to be behind them and be shadowy and sneaky. Like, oh, well, I'm not just going to let you Skyrim sneak up in front of people and stab them in the chest. And I was like, that's not
Must
what
have
I'm
been the
asking you
wind.
to. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking you to do, man. Like, but at the same time, like, what's the point of having stealth? So I had to remake my character again. And eventually, I don't remember what happened with that one, but I had to make my character, like, I had to try to make my character again. And he was just like, you want me to just like make your character for you and like tell you what's a really good OP build for your character? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not do it? And essentially, the only time that my character was useful, literally ever, as the captain of the game, which by the way, he didn't even give me ownership of the ship. I was the captain of the ship, but I didn't own the ship. Somebody else in the crew owned the ship. Um, was like during space combat when I could give everybody like double moves and like increase their success chances on things. And even then, it wasn't great because he's like, "Oh, I'm going to need you to actually give me a speech. Like give me an actual rousing speech to like rouse everybody up
Like, oh yeah,
instead of like
yeah,
rolling for it."
I keep those in my back pocket.
Yeah,
I
no,
got
I gave a list. So I just started like keeping a bunch of YouTube tabs open with quotes from from Captain Reynolds in Firefly, just ready to go. Like we aim to misbehave and like and
that is
things like
awesome.
that.
I did the same thing with my longest running character in Starfinder. He was a devourer cult mystic who kind of came back around to to the good side of the force over the course of
Right.
the campaign. But yeah, I would just take like biblical verses about the apocalypse because his whole thing was he just wanted to bring about the apocalypse. Uh, so I just keep those tabs open, be like, all right, well, it's my turn. I'm preaching about the apocalypse.
Oh man, that's good times. Okay. So I want to kind of get this show back on track here for a second, and talk about one of the bigger things that we have discussed at length that comes out of this book, which is and it's actually right here before Bloodlines, which is so appropriate because um, level adjustment. The point of level adjustment, right, is that your character has some sort of perk or benefit from being its race, that it is better than a human, right? Which I guess is technically true of almost any race in the player's handbook, but they're usually balanced out by something. But these characters are characters that are like even better than an elf. They're even better than a half elf. They're like drow or something, right? With fairy fire and some nonsense. So they got a +2 level adjustment. Um, and in the Savage Species book, they explain like if you're gonna make which is a 3.0 book, so you got to take it with a grain of salt because that's not a 3.5 book at all. But in the Savage Species book, they explain that certain things at high level are just not useful, right? So if you're making a pit fiend, right, your ability to cast fairy fire or like, I don't know, create water is not useful, right? Because you're
Yeah,
level 20, you can do wish.
yeah. So
Like,
I remember. So I've ran a lot of 3.5 modules, and in a lot of these modules, the enemies have stat blocks that you can check out. And I remember one of them that I was running one time. This thing was like a uh, CR11 dragon level 2 wizard. And then you look at it and you're like, if you had just taken those last two levels of dragon instead of wizard, you would have like gotten all your cool dragon stuff. But like, what can you do now? Now you got a D4 hit points for 2 levels, and you can cast Magic Missile a couple times.
Right, right, exactly. But I mean, that's one of the things that's covered in the Savage Species book, oddly, or actually not in the Savage Species book specifically. That one is specifically covered in the Dracronomicon, another great book. The Dracronomicon specifically says about playing a dragon, right? Is that if you start playing a dragon as like a whelp or whatever, right? You have your 1d12 dragon hit dice. But when you level up, you're taking levels of wizard or whatever, or sorcerer. And if you're a level 1 dragon whelp, 2 levels of wizard is pretty cool, actually. That's like really good for you. But then you have to like spend the time, quote unquote, to age up, which when you age up as a dragon, you suddenly gain a bunch of level adjustment or a bunch of hit dice. And so suddenly you're a level 11 with like or CR 11 or a level 11 dragon with 2 levels of wizard, and you're like, oh well, those levels are trash, and I don't want to keep playing. I don't want to keep taking levels of wizard. I want to keep taking levels of dragon. But you can't keep taking levels of dragon because taking levels of dragon means that you have to age up, which takes physical time for your character.
Like, hey
So you
guys,
got to
I'm
keep.
just gonna go over here and age up. Next session, you
Yeah,
guys will all be dead, and
I'm gonna go sit in the hyperbolic time chamber with Goku and Piccolo for a little while. Don't worry about me, baby. I'll be back in 50 years. It'll take
turn up
5 days.
turn up the gravity.
But yeah, no, and so there's yeah, so anyway, that's the whole point of level adjustment, right? And like bloodlines, which comes right after this section about reducing level adjustment, has this whole thing, it's essentially 3 level adjustment. But then look at the number of things that you get for 3 level adjustment, right? You're not getting any hit dice, you're not getting any saving throws, you're not getting any skill points, but you're getting a +1 wisdom, +1 charisma, +1 constitution, +6 celestial affinity, damage reduction 5 evil, natural armor, spot checks. Like these are like good abilities, right? But like if you take half dragon as a character template, that's 4 levels of level adjustment. It gets way more stuff than this, but it's only 4 levels of level adjustment. And at level 5, that stuff is awesome. At level 5, that stuff is completely, utterly insane, over the top. You're gonna be beating down on goblins and they're not gonna be able to touch you. But like at level 20, those 5 resistance to acid damage is not going to be what's helping you here. Um, and so you have this section for reducing your level adjustment, and the standard way that you reduce your level adjustment is like broken down here on this table, right? If you have a +1 level adjustment, you have to wait till 3 to drop your level adjustment. 2 level adjustment, you have to wait till 6. So it's your number of class levels necessary for level adjustment reduction, not including racial hit dice, uh, based on your starting level adjustment, and it's 3 times the level of level adjustment. So if you want to have, if you're like a succubus or something, and you have 6 levels of level adjustment, you have to reach level 18 to go down to a +5, which technically makes you level 17 at that point, and it's really crazy. But the benefits they get from having their level adjustment are much better than the benefits a drow gets from his level adjustment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but like, and they explain it here, the experience points cost, each time the character levels up, it is eligible to have it reduced. Let's just use the 2 right here, for example. Go to level 6. You are level 6 and you're going to level 7. You can choose not to go to level 7 and instead stay level 6 and just get rid of one of your level adjustment. And then at level 9, when you go from 9 to 10, you can choose not to level up to level 10 and drop your other level adjustment.
That's pretty
You
cool.
you still have to pay the experience So you're still gaining all the experience, current ECL level -1. So if you're reaching level 10, or well, what is level 10's like 100,000 experience or something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So you'd have to reach like 90,000 or 91,000 experience. And then you could spend that 91,000 experience to drop back down to level 9 and go back. And then it's got the breakdown here, second level fighter who later gains his third class. Okay. Oh, so actually you don't have to wait till 7. You can do it at 6. Um eligible to reduce his level from +1 to +0. He pays 5,000 experience. His ECL is now 6. His 2 hit dice +3 class levels +1 of his 2 level adjustments left. After he pays his experience, it goes to +0. His ECL is now 5. 2 hit dice, 3 class level. There's no way to get rid of hit dice. They've only done it for level adjustment, which makes the most sense. And but you know, and yes, he's behind. Like the rest of his class, the rest of his group or team may be level 6, and now he's level 5, but he also needs less experience to level up. So over the course of a game, he's going to catch back up to them. It's not going to be. And I just think that this right here is one of my favorite variant rules that exists. And me and my college group took it to the next level because we were like, it's a little bit ridiculous to have to wait to level 18 to get rid of a +6 level adjustment. So we as a group agreed that just every 3 levels that you could drop a level adjustment.
That works.
And so we were like, we were doing characters, that were like level 12 with +3 level adjustments. So really they're level 15. Our characters would join the campaign at level 12 and the rest of the group would be level 15. Because it was a long running campaign. We were level 30 something by the time we
Yeah, that's really cool.
but yeah, it's by far and away one of my favorite things out of the Unearthed Arcana by a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm kind of salty that I never had this book because I just didn't use level adjustment, kind of because of how it's portrayed.
Detrimental.
Yeah, and how it's portrayed in the PHB and the DMG. I think this is just a way better way to do it.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, there's so many cool things in this book. This book, honestly, I would say it belongs among the core group. Like you say, Player's Handbook 2 should be a core rule book, right? Like I think that this book should be a core DMing.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
agree. I
Like
100% agree.
there's a lot of stuff in here that specifically pertains to characters and is awesome for characters, like variant classes and stuff. But there are rules in here that are covered for for DMs that are not covered elsewhere. Like we got vitality and like variants on like how to like deal with damage and being injured and stuff. The massive damage threshold, which was his like, oh my god, that the massive damage threshold seems silly at certain once you've got a certain level of power level, right? Because if you've got players that know how to build their characters, 30 damage is
Yeah,
not a lot of damage to
yeah, we have
bypass.
we have run into that several times.
Um, and so here you've got whenever the damage takes a single hit equals to his constitution score, boom, he's got to make a DC 15 fortitude save or die. But then you've got 20 equal to 25 plus their +2 per hit dice, right? So like if they're a level 20 character, that's 45. You got to take more than 45 damage. Or if they're just really, really big, like you're not going to kill a dragon with 50 damage because he rolled a 1 on his saving throw. You know what I mean? Like they just get crap tons of extra health, like to their massive damage deaths and stuff. And then got extra rules for dying and healing and Action points is dumb. Nobody ever should use action points. It's really bad. But it's out there. People can do what they want with that. You've got hex based grids, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, where's the oh bell curving, where you, instead of using a D20, right, you use 3d6. So it's really less like swingy and accidental like than most campaigns
I,
can
I think
be.
that would actually be fun to try.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept to say the least. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's just so much stuff in this book that like really, for not necessarily, like I said, not necessarily for players, but for DMs, I think that this book is a must have in your repertoire, because there's always going to be, like, maybe not like, if you're just starting 3.5 and you've got a group of freshies who have never played 3.5 in their life, they're not going to go looking through every single book and find this book, right? But if you are a DM and you have a semi-experienced player in your group, odds are he's going to throw something out of this book at you, and you're going to be like, I don't know how to deal with it because I've never read this book.
Oh
And
yeah, 100%.
like when I came to you, during the elemental evil like campaign, and I was like, can we drop some level adjustment? Like,
Like
because
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
you're like, I don't even know how you do that. Fucking, you want to explain that to me? And I was like, yeah, I'll break it down for you real quick. And you're like, I still don't understand it.
But
Like,
yeah, just yeah.
but
It,
you sound like you know what you're talking about, so go ahead and do it.
yeah.
Like,
That's kind of that. I mean, that's what I do a lot with DMing, especially if I'm doing super crunchy systems like 3.5. Like I'm not sure if it's possible to keep all of the 3.5 stuff like in your brain, at the same time. There's just so much crazy stuff going on. So I'll just be, yeah, I mean, if you know how to do it, do it.
exactly. And when it comes up, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Like, if it's something that I need, that I'm gonna have to worry about, and like it's something that's gonna interfere with my DMing or whatever, bring it up. Let me know. I'll deal with it when it comes up.
Yeah.
And like, well, it'll be great. It'll be awesome.
But I absolutely love this book. Like this is one I'm kind of in the process right now of trying to kind of uh, regain my old 3.5 and 3.0 collection, because again, I lived in Asia for 10 years, and I basically had to get rid of all those books when I left. So I'm kind of in the process of tracking a lot of these down, and I think this is definitely one that that's going to be like one of the first or one of the next ones that I get.
Such a good book. Like,
Absolutely amazing book. And now I'm glad that I know, more about it, so I can actually use it in 3.5 games that I run later. Because once again, I mean, uh I have no desire to DMing and playing 3.5. It's a great system, and I really enjoy it. So I don't really see myself putting
oh
it
yeah,
down
man.
for.
I'm never gonna stop playing D&D, and I mean, unless something crazy kicks off with 6, like I don't see myself ever giving up 3.5 for 5th edition or fourth, like definitely not 4th edition. Um, but like, like there's, and so 3.5 is my home. It's my safe place as far as Dungeons and Dragons go. And I'm gonna be DMing and playing games in this until I'm like 60 or 70. You know what I mean? I would be an old man, actual old man with Gandalf beard,
Yep.
DMing on roll 20 to a group of kids, like,
100%. And I think we're both in that same spot. But yeah, I think that's that. I mean, I feel like I have a much better understanding of this book, and um, I think that anybody listening would agree that this is just a great supplement. Specifically if you're running third at 3.5, but even if you're not, even if you're doing other systems, there's stuff in here that could be beneficial to you.
oh yeah, I mean, like Pathfinder is just 3.5 light. Um, Like there's a lot of things in Pathfinder. There were like Pathfinder was like, okay, we want to be 3.5 for the people that don't want to play fourth. And they took some things out, like use rope skill and some other things. There's some things that are like a little finicky about it. So I like to call it 3.5 light, because it's not as covered. But all the 3.5 books work with that, and that includes
Yeah,
Unearthed Arcana. And Unearthed Arcana was such a hit actually uh with 3.5 that they made a fifth edition version of Unearthed Arcana. Like just recently, I think it came.
that's cool.
I
I do remember that fifth edition had they called it Unearthed Arcana. It wasn't like a book yet. They might have come up with that later. I don't really keep up with fifth edition, but it was where you could get all of the alternate class features. So that's where I made my Arcane Archer for like the one fifth edition game. No, I played two fifth edition games. I played an Arcane Archer, and then I played my buddy Nason ran a Ravnica game. Actually, we all did it. We did a rotating DM kind of game, and
That's
each of
cool.
each of us picked one of the guilds because they had that supplement that came out, the Guild Master's Guide to Ravnica,
Right,
which
right.
which was really good. Um, but I played an Arcane Archer, and then I played a Kobold sorcerer who thought he was Niv Mizzet, the Draco genius, but he wasn't.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's something that's really cool. Like I gotta say, like fifth edition and Magic the Gathering and all that stuff that's coming out these days, like the crossover and stuff that's going on with all that. It's really good. I really appreciate it. Like there's a lot of like really interesting worlds coming out for all that stuff. I think it's good. I think it's
yeah, 100%. But so we've been ranting for a little over an hour now.
yep.
So I would just like to well, number one, thank you for bringing this concept up and taking the time to explain this book to me and to the listeners because I just this I'm kind of treating this as core now. Like I've got to get this and I've got to read through it. Um, but is there anything else you want to say before we go, or is there anything you're doing right now you'd like to plug, or kind of tell the people where they can find you if they'd like to reach out?
Not right now. I'm the girlfriend, I should say, says that we should put together like a Twitter or something to plug, the 3.5 book club itself. So keep an eye out. Maybe at a later date we'll have something put together where you guys can look us up. That doesn't revolve around trying to search us up on YouTube.
Yeah,
Um, but outside of that, I think in the short term, I don't really have anything like that I'm trying to plug. Uh, I look forward to putting out a few more of these with you, for
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. I'm super psyched about it. Um, but if you don't have anything else, I don't think I have anything else for today. So um, today we have been joined by Lonnie. As always, I'm Cliff, and we will see you next time on the D&D 3.5 Book Club.